want to be sure the folks are in from orientation. Have they returned? Have you guys back from orientation, or are they still coming? Are they on the way?
They're coming in right now.
We'll wait till they return. And meanwhile, how many of you have been in a room where I've been presenting before? Can you please raise your hand? Oh. That's an honor. No, you can just remove it. I'll go. Well, I hope I live up to your expectations. There will be probably 2 or 3 jokes that will be repeats, so I'd ask you to just sort of, rumble along or something. Let the rest enjoy. There will be plenty of new material for those of you who have been in a room where I've presented before. So I am honored to be your servant for the next hour, and we will begin as soon as the folks are all in from orientation. For those just coming in, pretend this is Vegas. The seats up front cost more. In this room, they're the same price, so you're getting a bargain. Fair? If you have an open seat next to you, if you want to raise your hand just to make it easy for those who are looking for one, it would be helpful. My voice okay? Thank you. You guys, anyone else? How many more we got coming in? As they come in, just let them know. Okay, lighting okay? You can see this screen all right? Focus all right? I'll just trust my technical staff. I want to thank Steve Ackley for helping with the setup. And how many of you know presenters who carry 2 PCs just in case one doesn't work well? Okay, well, you're looking at one right now, and for the first time in 3.5 years, I find myself needing it, and I'm running off the backup. So if you'll please make allowances, we might have 1 or 2 little hiccups along the way just because we're running off the backup system. Fair enough?
Fair enough.
Okay, thank you. Well, each of you should have a sheet of paper with 7 holes along the left-hand side. The reason I say left, that's just to help give you a hint of which is the front. And everyone's in. If you will do me the favor of trusting me for just 2 or 3 minutes, I will try to use that 2 or 3 minutes wisely, earn your trust, so that you'll continue to trust me for the rest of the hour. Does that sound like a plan? All right. What I'd like you to do is turn to your neighbor. If you're sitting in the middle someplace, you have 2 neighbors, right? Each one of them, turn to them, gently touch somehow, respectfully. You can touch their hand, you can do a fist bump, you can do a handshake, you can do something, but respectfully touch them, and as you're touching them, shaking their hand or whatever, say, thank you for being here today.
Hey, Dave.
Yes, Dennis.
Can I go?
Dennis, we need a little more light or something?
Can I go pick the people I want to touch?
You want to pick the people, Dennis wants to pick the people you can touch. Okay. I love you, man.
Life's been tough.
Oh, life's been tough. Anything and everything, as Dennis mentioned, that I do during presentations or for meetings has a purpose. You can ask me after the meeting, and I will explain why we did that. For example, in this case, the reason I asked you to say thank you for being here is it's a gesture, it's relationship building. We depend on each other. If I'm the only one who shows up, not much value. Talking to myself, I do that at home. I don't need to do it in public, yes? We talk to each other, we build a relationship, we nourish each other. We're going to have a little experiment in a moment, built off the airline industry. Don, if you could find a $1 bill for me, please. We're going to do a little experiment so that you can all appreciate how the airline industry has gone through since the Orville Wright brothers, cumulative profit negative. How can that happen? We'll do a little exercise on that. And about relationship building, we'll do some of that. We're going to talk about leaders, managers, negotiations, influence. I'm going to draw on research from 4 well-respected scholars. The first is Abraham Zalesnik. He's now a retired professor. He taught psychology of management at Harvard Business School. He's testified in federal and Supreme Court cases, executives, and the board is trying to figure out whether this executive just made a prudent decision and things went bad, or was the executive a little bit off, if you know what I mean? And should they have known better? Was he acting out a childhood fantasy, or was he just making a prudent decision and things unfolded poorly? He is a pretty responsible executive, and he's written some very famous stuff. Managers and leaders, are they different? That's a rhetorical question in his mind. That's Abraham Zalesnik. That's the first. The second will be Bruce Tuckman. He did research some years ago in the 60s, as a matter of fact, in the 70s, with the U.S. Navy SEALs in Florida. And these names, by the way, are written on the bottom of your sheet. And anything I share, and you didn't make a note or something, send me an email and I'll gladly send you the stuff. Don't worry about it. I'm not trying to keep a secret. I treat information more like love than like property. Dennis mentioned plagiarism. As if I borrow from one person, it's plagiarism. If I borrow from enough, then it's research. So I'm naming the four right now, right? The first one is Abraham Zelesnik. You'll get stuff from his. And a handout. If you do like Paul said a couple thousand years ago, he mentioned persevere. Persevere to the end, and you'll get your reward. So you persevere to the end of this session, we have a reward for you. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper with the information that you have in front of you. Only the blanks are filled in. How's that? At least on the back side of the page, they're all filled in. And the front side, where you've got a kind of a column there, managers, leaders, and that sort of thing, I've got a list of 29 or 30 attributes for each. So you know whether to sell yourself as a manager or a leader. Okay, that's just kind of a little carrot I'm holding out there for you to persevere to the end. So we have who? Abraham Zelesnik, Bruce Tuckman, and then we have a gentleman by the name of Rory O'Day. Second-year Harvard MBAs, most of them anyway, those of us who are focused on soft science stuff, studied his organizational behaviors. He researched middle managers in large organizations to find out why they behave the way they do, or if there were patterns, to try to identify patterns. And what he discovered is that they engage in intimidation rituals. Does this ring a bell? Those of us who might want to change something, we're going to be labeled reformers. We think we're a positive reformer. I happen to be a member of the Positive Deviant Network. That's a real organization. Anyway, they look at us positive deviants, and they see us as negative deviants, and they do their best to intimidate us into towing the company line, falling in line, not rocking the boat, shall we say. There are 4 stages. I will share that with you today. So after you land your job, you will be more skilled at keeping that job. Is that useful? Yes. Kind of influence your environment a little bit, right? Like we learn to do when we're breastfeeding, right? If we don't do anything, nothing happens, right? We got to manipulate our environment to survive. It starts when we're very, very young. Got it? Okay, and then so after we finish with Rory O'Day, then we'll get to the meat of this, which about 40% of it is a gentleman by the name of Robert Cialdini. He's an Italian guy teaching now, most frequently quoted living social psychologist. Teaches in Arizona. And he's written a book, $20 on Amazon, Influence. You can get it used for $12. But I'll share that with you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Is that helpful? This will give you 6 principles for influencing your network without compromising your own integrity or encouraging others to compromise theirs. So how can you push the envelope? And how important is it to build relationships? We call it networking, but if you think of it as relationship building, we'll get a lot further. And last but not least, as another good Catholic young man and boy, I learned that part of it is pattern and behavior, tradition and ritual. They have a role to play. I want to influence your behavior with your permission. I want to improve your performance on your next interview. If you will allow me to help you do that, I'm convinced you will be significantly more effective. And I'll plant the seed right now. It's going to be to see your next interview as an audition rather than an interview. Because an interview has all kinds of negative connotations and scary things and all that kind of stuff. If you're going to audition and you're already a pianist or a violin virtuoso, whatever, it's fun to play. You want to share your skills. There? So that's how we'll wrap up. Sounds like a lot to accomplish in an hour, yes? So some questions might come to mind. And you've got a little card that says on it, for those of you who can read that little fine print on the bottom, it'll say pocket whiteboard. Efficient use of language, right? Why pocket? Because it fits in a pocket, right? Okay, and why whiteboard? Because it is white. Well, we're really sophisticated here. They sent us to Harvard to learn this stuff? Give me a break. Okay, so that limits me from using colored cards and all that, but you get the point. So if you have a question that's just really burning, if you make a note, a couple words, and there's another thing about this card, its size has value. It's kind of like the scorecard for golf. As Brian Dodge is fond of saying, there's no room for an excuse. You just write the number. In this case, make your question brief, put it on here, simple, so that we can share, okay? So if we have a little time at the end, or if Dennis gives us a few minutes after the hour is up, and if you want to make use of that time, we'll share some questions that you've written on a card. Okay, folks, here we go. Network